Yep. Follow the fish. Nice. Well, that's what I'd hope would happen this morning. It's a nice flathead too. Come around here and have a look at this. On the whole prawn. Yeah. That's what I want. Snap the line right at the right time. Stay well behaved for YouTube. That's what I wanted. And he sawed through the line just as he came in the boat, as I boat lifted him. And he's got that whole prawn right down in there. Bit more of this over the Classic, I'll be a happy man. Welcome back to a special My Lure Box video. Folks, the week of the Flathead Classic, it's only days away now. I'm so excited for this, and the conditions the last few days is going to make it a real challenge. We've had flooding rain in the lead up to the Classic this year, but you can see it this morning, it is absolutely stunning. So clear days, or slightly cloudy the next few days. I'll take you through all the conditions and the tide heights and how I'm going to fish it, and also a whole heap of the lures that I'm going to be using and how I like to fish them. So if you're into your flathead fishing or you want to learn a bit more, this is a great video for you. Let's get stuck in. Yep. Oh, that was definitely a fish. He grabbed it on the way down. Yeah, I got him now. Grabbed it a second time. Cheeky little bugger. Well, there you go. I think they call them 5-pointers in the Classic. Not quite its size. But I'll take anything that's willing to have a go. Yep. There's a fish. Grabbed him on the bottom. Yeah. Alright. Well, I'm pretty happy with that for the morning. That is just perfect. Yep. Oh, I felt that on the slack line, that one. Grabbed it on the drop. Beautiful stuff. Oh, fabulous. There we go. There's another flatty on the prawn wriggler. The Squidgy's wriggler. You beauty. Alright, well I've just come all the way down the Coomera River and I had a little bit of a fish on the way for about 5 minutes, but it's like chocolate. The flooding rain has meant that the visibility is about less than a foot, and it's going to make it really challenging, I'm sure, for the Classic. Even though we've still got 3 or 4 days of some big tides on the back of a new moon, there's still going to be a really dirty colour to the water, and that's going to shape the tactics for everybody, I would say. We're all in the same boat with that, so I'll talk you through that. My plan was not really to do a lot of fishing here this morning. In a pre-fish, I don't want to go and throw big baits and chase big flathead on banks that I'm going to be hitting in 3 days' time. Usually I like to just come out and have a little bit of a fish and get a feel for the area and the tide heights and see what's working, but I can't even see a lot of the banks and the weed edges here. I'm better off just peering through Google Maps and a Vital Map and Google Earth and having a look at some of the banks like that, because at the moment you cannot see anything. And I'm down on the Broadwater and it's still, there's like less than a metre viz. Like if I drop a lure down from the surface, what have I got? Where there's about a metre of visibility down here in the Broadwater, and the tide's a little bit over halfway in now, so it's just that it's 7 o'clock now, and I think it's going to be that way even for the Classic. So what I might do, I want to go through all the lures that I'm thinking about using for the Classic, just to give you guys some ideas on how I like to fish it, and what might play and work in the Classic, give you guys some ideas on how you could fish the Classic if you're in it, or what's useful when you're going flathead fishing in general. So I'll go through all of this stuff, and I might overlay some footage from, you know, the hundreds of minutes of fishing tips and review videos I've got on flathead fishing. I can overlay some of that footage for you to give you your YouTube fishing fix as we go. But I can talk you through how I like to fish it and where it's going to come into play, I'd say, over the Classic. Let's just have a look at the weather first. So I like to use Weather Zone, and you can see there, hopefully you can pick some of this up. The weather for today is really nice, obviously, really low winds. It's getting up later in the afternoon, but then as we move through the week, you can see mostly sunny, partly cloudy. Wednesday, partly cloudy, chance of showers. Friday and Thursday is partly cloudy. Okay, and both days, if we have a look at the winds now, we'll go into willy weather. So low winds, early westerlies this morning, changes to easterly in the afternoon, and then northerlies, really light northerlies on Tuesday night, and then coming into Wednesday, just really light northwesterlies, westerly Wednesday night, and then Thursday's going to be just stunning with an early westerly. Friday morning, light southerly. So those conditions, you've got a moon, it's basically the new moon tonight, and then we've just got it starting to fill into the end of the week. So that's going to mean that there's going to be really big tides, and hopefully these big tides are going to just clean it out and give us the best chance we've got at cleaning out these systems. Now if you have a look this morning, we got the start of a rising tide just at sunrise, and it's getting up to 1 metre during the day, 1.1, and then the big tides are happening at night at the moment. Okay, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how that might play out as the week progresses, that you've got big tides during the night, high tides during the middle of the day, and on Wednesday, when the Classic starts, that's it. So people are going to be on the water at sunrise, I'd say, or just after sunrise. Fishing starts at 6:30. So what we're going to see is that rising tide, fishing the rising tide all day, and then getting the start of the run out probably about halfway done by the time you've got to get off the water. So I'll take you down so you can see, this is just at Coomera River Sanctuary Cove. These tide times, that's where I sort of put in, and I'm using those tides because I think some days I'm going to try and get out of the traffic. The boat traffic is going to be horrendous, so we'll see how that's going to play out with the conditions, with the way that people are going to sort of condense into areas where there's cleaner water, I'd say. But there's some of the tide heights that you've got, so 1.2 metre high tides, and yeah, low tide right at sunrise. So there's a quick look at how the conditions are going to fare for the Classic. Now, I've got Ben, my brother, Jai, one of my good mates, Jai, who really knows his flathead fishing, and myself, all in this 3.7 metre Quintrex Traveller for the 3 days. So we're going to be shoulder to shoulder in here, and that might also play into where we can fish if the wind gets up or the conditions change, because this little tinny is not great in big chop and big boat traffic. It just becomes a little bit too tippy. So I usually try to get into the creeks and fish the creeks, which is a little bit of a limitation, but every year there's good fish caught up the creeks and in the canals, and I love the challenge of going and finding those quieter areas to fish anyway. I'm going to capture as much as I can from the fishing at the Classic and some of the nightlife there if I can, and bring that to you guys to celebrate the event. It's a fantastic event, a beautiful setting on the Gold Coast, run by the Gold Coast Sports Fishing Club. So let's get into the lures and I'll talk to you how I want to fish it. I've always got too many lures, or it feels like that when I lay them out in front of me, but the idea behind it is that if the conditions change and on any given day, different lures and different colours might work. So the way that we'll approach it from the outset is going to be probably fishing 3 different lures and slightly different styles of lures, and maybe rotate through a couple of colours as we sort of fish banks to get an idea of what's working on the day. It's very easy to just leave a lure on that's caught fish, you know, the week before or 3 or 4 days before, and just persist with that, thinking you're going to get the bite and you're actually missing out on it. So I've always said don't let a good lure get in the way of great fishing. So that's how we'll try and approach it and move through lures, and I've got lots of them here for you to check out. we'll start at the small end. I've sort of laid a lot of them out. We'll start at the small end and go through, and I'll try and overlay some tactics and how I like to fish with them as we go. And probably none of them get any smaller than little trolling lures, like this little, this is like a Pablo Shad by Shimano. That's a tiny little lure that I've done a review on. This is a 59 SP, so it's like a very, very small little diving lure. You can cast these, and also these famous Tango Shads that the Wilson guys have made famous for years now with their, you know, big wins and always up the top end of the results with these little Tango Shads. They're a great little trolling lure, and these are trolled generally in around 1 metre of water, or less at times. These can be trolled right up in just a couple of feet of water, and the way that I like to do that is to have it about 10-15 metres out behind the boat. And I'm not just using the same rods for this stuff too. So with these little lures, with the tiny little trebles on them, I'm not using a super heavy tipped rod, but I'm just trolling these behind the boat and just dropping my rod back, constantly just trying to vary up the action. And with a suspending lure or a little slow floating lure like these little diving lures, you can get great numbers of flathead, and it's always the case in the Flathead Classic that the trolling guys go really, really well. Now, some of the options that I've got, so there's a gold there, there's that little thing that's perfect around those muddy areas and around the weed edges. Have a look at this. This is one of my all-time favourites, which is, these are made by Brad Smith. So Brad Smith released these years and years ago, and they're called Little Mates, and I've caught absolutely everything on that little thing. And even with that shallow angled diving bib, these little things get down a little bit deeper than you'd think, and they're super busy. They've only got, you know, obviously really small trebles on them, so they can work like mad. So you can't fish with a heavy drag, but you don't need to on the flats. But something like that is just perfect. Now, these micro mullets, it's the same kind of thing. These micro mullets, they're just tiny little baits, but boy do they do it every year. They're some of the best flathead fishermen's favourites, these little lively lures, and they've done it forever. They've stood the test of time. Another one that I picked up at the Australian Lure and Fly Expo this year from Maury Kneebone. Take a look at that little profile. Super sharp little trebles, really strong trebles actually. So you can fish for a lot of stuff with these things. But that little thing there, I reckon that's going to get a go if we do a fair bit of trolling. We might try and do a little bit of trolling during the middle of the day, just to conserve ourselves and just not rinse ourselves. It's a long tournament, and you've got to sort of pace yourself to still be standing up straight on the last day. But yeah, there's some hard bodies that are going to be an option. And I also think with the dirty water, getting down underneath that dirty water at the entrances to canals and through some of the rivers, some deeper diving stuff might be really useful as well. So that's an OSP dunk, and that there is a deeper Tango Shad. Okay, like super deep. It's only a small profile. I think it's like it's a 69. Yeah, and I've caught a massive flatty on that in Tallabudgera Creek years ago with a mate. In his first 10 minutes fishing in Australia, I think he got an 83. So these definitely catch the big flathead, and they can get down underneath some of that real dirty stuff and get down the bottom at some of the canals. So they're going to be another option as well. The other thing that I've got for casting, some hard body lures for casting, these are homemade. These are timber crafted lures. This one's by a 15-year-old kid that sent me this sort of lipless lure, and they just have a beautiful action across the flats. I've caught some flathead on a video I did a couple of weeks ago before the Australian Lure and Fly Expo to celebrate some Australian timber crafted lures. That's been made by a teenager, and boy, they work really, really well. He's done a fantastic job on those, Rory from down south. You can check that out. I'll link some of these videos in actually, so I'll link them up above if you want to click on that and check out some of that action. This is from Greg Vinyl. This is a timber handcrafted diving lure from Greg Vinyl, who runs the Australian Lure Fishing Podcast, and the colours on that and the action on that, it's really, really defined in the water, its roll, and I think maybe with dirty water, something like that, something a little bit different, might be worth having in my box as well. Not that I really want to throw this around, but I'm going to have to fish with a little bit heavier leader because I don't want to lose it, one of Greg Vinyl's handcrafted timber lures. Okay, so I've got those, and then it wouldn't be a flathead fishing video without talking about these double clutches. These double clutches, you can cast these or troll them, and they've got to be one of the front runners in terms of diving lures as well. So these have been around for a long time. I've caught jacks on these. They're a beautifully small profiled lure and a really busy action. And they've caught the tons of flathead they've caught over the years. Amazing. So I've got those in there as well. We might touch on some of the soft plastics. That's probably going to be the majority of the way that I fish during the Classic, is going to be fishing soft plastic lures. And I'll try and start from the smaller ones and move my way up to give you an idea of how we're going to fish it. Now, some of the more recently released lures, these ones from Holt Productions, these swim minnows, if you have a look, that's what's on my rod at the moment, and that's what I've probably been fishing with the most in recent times, are these Holt Productions swim minnows. Boy, they've caught some flathead for me, and some big ones too, even these small profiles. So I'll be fishing those, any swim prawns. And Jai's a master with these. He's caught absolutely everything, some massive flathead over the years on these, and a whole load of other species. So these swim prawns and the swim minnows by Holt Productions are definitely going to be a go-to for us during the competition. And they're just being fished with really small jig heads. So little 1/6 ounce, these are a 1/4 ounce, and the 2 3/0 size jig heads are the way to go. I love these painted ones. Okay, so there's these from Tackle Tactics, these big eyes, pink painted ones as well. You can see I've got them rigged here. So that's how they sort of sit, and you want to be rigging them nice and straight. If you're just getting into your lure fishing, that's how you want to rig them. Okay, but yeah, they just look fantastic in the water. You can see them a mile away when it's clear water, so you know where you're hopping and dropping around the edges of weed and down drop-offs and things. So that's what I really like about these, and I think the flathead can probably pick up on that colour too. Definitely the contrast, that bright colour in dirty water, I love that idea. Now these have been one of the best soft plastics for a while now as well. These flat shads by Xeric. Wilson boys use them every year and they catch tons of fish. So these things have definitely proven themselves. They've got a lovely little profile. Okay, and I picked up that pink one because I know flathead fishermen love pink. I think flathead love pink, but that might stand out in this dirty water. So I picked one of them up this week. Here's another Australian designed lure by Matty Schultz, who runs Pursuit Tackle in North Queensland. He's just released, this is like the 3.5 inch or the 3 inch Twitchit. Okay, they come in bigger sizes, but that little thing there, the action on the tail of these Twitchits is amazing. And I think in dirty water, I think this lure, along with some of those Holt Production lures, is going to get a lot of time on the end of our rods this week in the Classic. They've got like a Kevlar matting through the tail. Maybe you can see that if the glare's not across the plastic. They've got a Kevlar matting through the tail, which means that it's really jointed and it just opens up that rear paddle to just go bananas in the water, and you can feel it right through the rod tip. Great little lure to fish, and they've got like a little weedless hook through them. Okay, so those Twitchits, I'm going to use those as well. I've done a couple of videos in recent weeks fishing with these squidgies, the new Durastretch squidgy fish, okay, and these little wrigglers. And now these profiles have been around for such a long time and they're still catching loads of fish, but Squidgy have released these now in a super stretchy material. I've loved these prawn paddle tails for jacks and for flathead. So there's one little profile that I've used for a long time to great success. Little paddle tail on the back, little feeling legs, and they come in that really stretchy material now too. Okay, so they've got a scent in them, but I smash everything with my S Factor. Okay, and I pump I've got this is a new product, an Australian fella, Luke, I think his missus Renee have come out with this, and I just pump a ton of S Factor and scent into that, stink finger it's called, and that way you can just lay your little plastic in there, shut it down, and you just coat your lure in stink finger like that, and then you're away you go. You don't have scent all over your hands and your clothes at the end of the day. So I've been using that for weeks now on my channel and talked about that. But if you don't know about that, I'll put a link to that at the bottom of this video in the description. Okay, now what else have I got here? So those squidgies are going to be getting a run. These atomic plazos, these little prongs, they catch heaps of flathead, and I love them in clear water. Okay, the little feelers and the little soft moving tail bits, they go bananas. That little squidgy fox, so the silver fox colour in the little squidgy fish in the 70mm has been one of my favourites on the Broadwater since I was a kid. And then these Z-Mans, the diesel minnows rigged with the snake locks jig heads, and then these easy shrimps as well. I've done some videos on these easy shrimps over the years and caught plenty of flathead through the weed, just rigging them with a little 1/4 ounce jig head in front. And that material floats, so it keeps the lure up off the bottom. Okay, and in the current, when you've got current, which we're going to have with the running in tide, they're just fantastic as they move around. You've got the jig head stuck in the bottom, and then the tails move around and just wave at the flathead and really entice them. So they're going to be another one. One of the lures that's been released recently, again an Australian lure designer, is this clone prawn. And I've fished with these. They're fantastic on barramundi, and flathead in slow moving water is where I like to fish them. And hopefully you can see there, the way that I've rigged that is a tiny little ball at the front and then a weedless, like an EWG weedless hook to hold it in place, so that you can just fish these down in amongst cover and around weed and that kind of thing. And all of the little legs and the feelers on this, I think they just pull the flathead in. And it's a super realistic profile. I mean, the more you stare at this thing, the more it looks like a prawn. Okay, so that's going to be a lure that if I can get into some quiet areas where the water's cleared up a little bit, there's not a lot of like vibing action out of this thing. It's a very sort of subtle lure in terms of its action, but its profile and how it presents in the water is just beautiful. So I'll probably be fishing those as well. So I just use like a little EWG hook, and then maybe a split shot or a really small size 3 or smaller split shot running sinker. We're nearly there, guys. We're just about there. I've got a couple other lures we can talk through, which is not what I fish a lot of, but boy, every year the guys that do really well, especially fishing around jump and pin, that are fishing in deeper water, they do really well with these vibes. So things like these Trans Ams, little Strike Pro little blades there, that's a Cyber Vibe 40, and then things like these fish traps, they're all really effective down deep. Now I don't do a lot of this fishing, like I said, but it might come in, and that might be one of the challenges and one of the new skill sets that we develop over the next few days for ourselves, because I know that Ben and Jai both don't do a lot of it, but we want to learn a bit more, so we might spend some time doing that and trying to get under the deep water in some under the dirty water in the deep holes to try and get some flathead using those. What else is there? There's little ZX40s. I picked one of them up the other day. They're really effective as a little bladed lure, and they've got little stinger singles like these micro assist hooks, which I try to put on my lures to just increase the hookup rate. But that's just about it for the smaller stuff. The way that I fish it, I've got 12-pound FC rock is the leader that I use, and all my braid is like PowerPro Slick 8, and anywhere from, what have I got this year? I've got some 6-8 pound there and some 12-pound on, and all the way up to, yeah, it's probably 12 pound, and then I've got some 20-pound leader, which is fairly heavy for fishing for the big flathead. Now, I have been catching some good fish on these. These are my soft glides that I released earlier in the year, and I'm going to be fishing the last handful of packets that I've got left myself over the Classic. I've got more of these coming. I'm currently out of stock, and I have been for a while. I'm doing my very best to get another batch together for you guys, and I've just been really held up. I was hoping I'd have these for the Flathead Classic this year, but it's not going to be the case. I've waited I've waited over 10 weeks to get the hooks from Japan. It's been a fair hold up to get the decoy hooks that run at the front of this lure. And it's just sort of held everything up. So I appreciate you guys that have got interest in these lures. They've been catching a ton of fish, and as soon as I've got them in, they're going to be all across my social channels. But my soft glide lures, I'm going to be fishing those over the Classic, and I'll be sharing some fishing footage with you closer to the date when I'm going to release those again. I'm predicting it's going to be around mid-November. I'm hoping I'm going to have them ready for you by. So yeah, they're definitely going to feature in the Classic. The way that I like to fish the Classic is go swinging for the big fish. Now that doesn't necessarily work for your points. It's the way I like to fish for Flathead though. The Flathead Classic generally is all about getting numbers of fish in the boat, which makes it a fantastic competition for the fishing action. But my passion is chasing the giants. I really love getting onto those big fish, but it means that you sacrifice numbers a lot of the time for those bigger fish. And that's the soft glides, that's why I designed those, and the way that I designed them to be fished really simply to catch those bigger fish. And boy, can they do it. But we are going to dance between chasing some numbers to get a few fish on the board and enjoy our time on the water, but also swinging big with things like this soft glide. Depending on the weather conditions as well and the way that the water clears up. What else? I've got some lures in here that, again, some Australian design stuff. Now these have come from Mick Molnar. These have been catching some beautiful big flathead recently as well. These big whiting glides. Just a beautiful profile on these, and they're becoming more and more popular with the more people are fishing them. And then this thing here, take a look at this. This has got to be one of the most exciting glide baits to hit the market. This is an armour joint by Shimano. These things are amazing. I got my hands on these at AFTA this year, and let me just quickly show you some of the features of these. They've got a beautiful profile. They look just like a mullet in the water. And then a nice soft tail, but have a look at this, like nothing else. They fold so that they can be sent out a long distance, okay? And then they're really freed up with their movement through the water, and they've got that armor boost technology. Have a look at that. So there's like a little mirror or a little flash on some delicate springs right up the front of the body of the lure, and that just keeps moving the whole time to call the fish in. So I'm going to be fishing these bigger baits during the Classic. Again, they sort of hamper your numbers and your score, but we're out here to enjoy ourselves, enjoy our floody fishing, and I always like to think it's about also getting onto some really big fish too. So that's the idea. That's how we're going to fish it. I would say that we're going to vary between the lures that we're using. So one of us might have a giant flathead lure on, like a soft glide, throwing across the shallows if we can find some cleaner water, and then the others might have some smaller baits on to see if we can pick up some numbers. Some of the most effective techniques that I've used chasing flathead over recent times has been super quiet, drifting, plonking like a modified anchor across the flats and through the mud sections, and throwing into the weed patches around the little areas where there's mud, where you can throw in around the weed and then stop it around the mud in the shallows. So I'm hoping that it's going to clean up and we can do a bit of that. I realise this has been a really long video of me talking at you, but what I'm hoping is that I can share some of my insights and give you some ideas on what lures can work and how you can use them as well. If you're not quite sure, go and check out a whole heap. I've got a flathead fishing tips and adventures playlist, and there's a ton of flathead stuff in there that'll talk through all the details on how I like to do it. And there's also Giant Flathead in the Shallows, the DVD or the digital download you can get from my website. So I'll put that link in the bottom of this description. Alright, we might finish with the gear that I'm using, okay, and I've talked a little bit about the line, but the reels that I love to use, and I've got rigged up here, I've got a 2000, well that's a 2500 Stratic there, but these new Vanfords that have been released over the last few years, these 3000 Vanfords are just incredible to use. That's what I've been fishing with. I've got a couple of them rigged up and a BB Essence there, like that's a little 3000 BB Essence, but these Vanfords would definitely be my pick, and that's what I love to fish with. So I've got that on my Zodias rod. This is a new rod that I've picked up, 270M, okay, and that's like a 7-foot Zodias, and that just allows me to get great casting range. And boy, these are so smooth and really easy to reel. If you haven't tried these, pick them up in the shops and just have a feel. And right from the get, the moment you hold this in your hand and you start winding it, you'll know what I'm talking about. They're just fantastic. But that's what I'm fishing with, okay? And you know, I've fished for years with just entry-level gear like Sienna combos, Katana combos, and that kind of thing, and they're fantastic. My kids still fish with them, and at times I will too. But these days, I've been just fortunate enough to be able to fish with a little bit higher end gear, and boy, I know the difference now. You know, a good rod like this that has so much feel to it, where you can feel the bite, even on slackline, it just makes such a difference to my fishing. So that's what I'm fishing with throughout the Classic. I've also got, for my soft glides, so this is what I've got rigged up for my soft glides, is my 3000 BB Essence on a BB hard rocker. Okay, and that's an S83 medium, medium heavy is what that is, and that's like an 8'3" casting rod that gives me distance to send out long distances to throw after these super wary giant flathead in the shallows. And I run 20-pound leader on that and 10-pound braid. All right. Folks, that is absolutely everything. If you've stuck through this video and you've arrived here at the end, then I might put up a little prize this week, and I was going to do it just for the people in the Classic. I've sponsored the Flathead Classic this year, and I'm going to sponsor it for as long as I can now. Now that I've got product out there and merch available, I just want to be able to support any competitions that's getting the community fishing. So I've sponsored it this year, and what I'd like to do, if you've stayed through to the end of this, I'm going to put up a comp for the 3 days of the Flatty Classic to be, if you've bought my soft glides, if you've still got a couple of these, okay, and you can put in a shuckers with a video where you catch a flathead on a soft glide, the biggest flathead caught during the 3 days of the Flathead Classic with the shuckers sign, I'm going to send you a lure pack with one of the last packs of these that I've got at the moment. I think I've got like 5 packs left, including my own, so you can have a pack of mine, and I'll send you a shirt, a hat, and a giant flathead brag mat as a pack to celebrate the Flathead Classic this year. So I hoped I was going to have these ready for everyone for the Classic, but it's going to be mid-November, I reckon. So stay tuned to all my socials for the release date of these, and I'll update it all on my website when we get closer to the time. But yeah, if you want to send me a video of you doing a shuckers with a big flathead this week, you'll go into the draw, and I'll make sure that I announce who the winner is with the biggest flathead taken on a soft glide the week of this Flathead Classic. Alright, that's it folks. I'm going to get out fishing. This has been a lot less fishing, I understand, a lot less fishing in this pre-fish video for the Flathead Classic. Might get out there, I reckon I've got about an hour to go and throw around some edges and see if I can find some water that's cleaner and at the heights that I want to be fishing for the Classic. Alright, thanks for watching. There's going to be plenty coming because I'm going to be filming the whole Classic, all the fishing, and I'll pack that down into at least a couple of videos, I'd say it's going to end up being. So I hope you can enjoy some of that stuff as it comes over the next week or so. I'll see you then.